see me? Can you see me? Okay, now that I have this podium here. Welcome to week 2 of the Davao Peacebuilding Institute. Thank you for sharing with us your time and your presence. At this point, please turn to the person sitting next to you and extend these words. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. Again, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be comfortable and at peace. For more than 10 years now, I've been given the opportunity to work with former perpetrators and former victims, now survivors, of the 1994 massive genocide in Rwanda, who have extended forgiveness and made a conscious decision to reconcile as part of their national level trauma healing. They were the main actors of the 1994 genocide. 2 months ago, in March, I was invited to facilitate and teach a class of college students in Huye district in Rwanda. They were the children and grandchildren of those who lived through the genocide. They shared stories with me that otherwise they would not be able to share outside of our class. I learned how the trauma of their parents and grandparents continues to affect them today. They continue to suffer from what we call transgenerational trauma through the stories that their parents tell them and stories they constantly hear from others. Many struggle to make sense of their identity when they learn that their father was a former perpetrator and their mother was a former victim, and vice versa. As one of them asked, how do I make sense of who I am when a part of me is a perpetrator and the other part of me is a victim? Which one would I heal first? The victim in me or the perpetrator in me? When they ask their parents the whereabouts of an uncle or an aunt they have never seen, the response they would usually get would be, am I not enough for you? Many of them have questions without answers. In fact, many instances, they ask their parents what happened during the genocide, only to get a silent answer. And silence, as we know, is a form of storytelling. Just because I am not verbalizing something, just because I am not saying anything, doesn't mean I am not communicating. Just look at my facial and body expressions. Hence, in our peace-building efforts and initiatives, we need to listen not only with our ears to what people in the community are saying, we also need to listen with our eyes. Sometimes, what people do not say is more important to hear than what they do say. Especially when it comes to trauma and conflict stories. We also need to listen with our hearts. Trauma and conflict stories, as we know, carry heavy and intense emotions. Hence, as peace builders, we must be comfortable sitting in the fire of strong emotions. We need to integrate into our peace-building work the emotional aspect of conflict and trauma, which may have led us in the first place to be in conflict with each other. Because at one point, we became emotionally charged. But sad to say, unfortunately, in some of our peace-building and conflict resolution initiatives and work, we don't necessarily incorporate the trauma aspect of what happened. We set it aside for whatever reason. For many people in the community, their number one issue is how they were emotionally affected by what happened. Judith Herman, in her book, Trauma and Recovery, said, and I quote, "A narrative means lived stories. A narrative that does not include the traumatic imagery and bodily sensations is barren and incomplete. And the recitation of facts without the accompanying emotions is a sterile exercise without therapeutic effect. The ultimate goal," she said, "is to put the story, including its imagery, into words." Unquote. In our peacebuilding work, the telling of the conflict and trauma story, regardless of what course you will be taking this second week, the telling of the conflict and trauma story becomes a testimony. The transformed conflict and trauma story is simply or becomes a new story, which is no longer about shame and humiliation and defeat, but rather about dignity and virtue. Through our storytelling, we regain the world we have lost. Victoria Fu, author of We the People, says, "Stories are catalysts for conversations, and conversations are catalysts for change." If we want to effect personal and societal change, first and foremost, we've got to have conversations going on. And for these conversations to take place, we've got to have stories to tell. Hence here at MPI, we tell and share stories. Stories of pain and hurts, as well as stories of resilience and hope, including our vision of a future reality and how we wish to make it a reality. The question is, do you have a story to tell? And do you believe that your story is worth telling? We come from various socio-historical and cultural contexts, as was demonstrated and witnessed during the parade of countries. We come from different communities affected by conflict, natural disasters, war-torn communities. Some of us may represent households and workplaces characterized by violence and terror. We just want to acknowledge that. And yet we all made, as Mine said, we all made a conscious decision to come to MPI to study and learn, as well as to share and put our field experiences and experiential learnings in some perspective. If these are some of the reasons why you are here at MPI, if you are able, please stand. If you come to MPI because you want to learn, because you want to share stories, if this applies to you, please stand. Thank you, thank you. You may be seated. For some of us, MPI is an oasis. A space to reconnect with friends and colleagues. If this applies to you, please stand if you are able. You come to SPI because you want to establish friendships. You want to expand your network. You want to reconnect. Maybe not necessarily to learn, but just to reconnect. Okay, thank you, thank you. You may be seated. And yet for others, this is an exercise. And yet for others, MPI is a place to retreat from the busyness of our field work, to refresh and recharge, to get re-inspired and be affirmed and validated. If this applies to you, you may raise your hand. There you go. Okay, I'm trying to kind of negotiate here subconsciously. Okay, thank you. Most of all, come to MPI because we continue to dream and reimagine, against all odds, a world where human dignity is upheld and the common good is valued above personal greed and self-vested interests. Even if the rest of the world says no, we continue to say yes. If this applies to you, please raise your other hand. Okay, thank you. Since 2004 until present, I've been working with Karen refugees in various Karen refugee camps along the border between Burma and Thailand. For almost a year, I made a conscious decision to stay inside different Karen refugee camps just to have that feel of what life is like, although I would never be able to be one of them. I remember what they said when I asked them during one of my visits what dream is for their people. And this is what they said. Our dream is that someday we will have a chance to return to our village inside Burma. But as to whether this dream becomes a reality or not, that is not the point, they said. What matters is that we have this dream and we know that this dream is what keeps us going. For me, coming to MPI is a homecoming. The same I feel whenever I am at SPI, Summer Peacebuilding Institute, and at the Northeast Asia Regional Peacebuilding Institute. It's gathering spaces like this where I am reminded of my sense of being and my sense of being grounded with my reality. We come to MPI to also contemplate and reflect on the meaning of life and the purpose of our work. To ask, not what do I expect from the world, but what does the world expect from me? These three, namely contemplation, practice, and study, are what sustain peace builders. I have one more question to all of us. To all MPI participants, when did you know that you are a peace builder? When did you know? When did you claim that? Was it something that was being told to you, was being imposed on you that yes, you are a peace builder? Or is it something, being a peace builder is something that you own, you claim it for yourself? When was it? Some of us may have actually been doing peace building work and yet we do not see ourselves as peace builders. When was that shift in our consciousness? When you finally said it to yourself, I am a peace builder. In the words of Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning, he said, as peace builders, there's nothing that we can do about the past, but how we look at it, how we interpret it, and the meanings that we associate with the past, that we still have control over, including how we want to address it. Last Saturday at MPI, we had a luncheon in celebration of the 25th anniversary. Can we give MPI a round of applause for having reached this milestone? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I made a suggestion that maybe we could start having an endowment for all the, with the alumni. And also I would like to add, and this is my dream for MPI, that someday we will have participants who will be taking some of the courses for credit, and that we need to connect with academic institutions. Well, the rest, of course, will continue taking MPI courses for training. But for those who want to take credit, I think that would be a wonderful opportunity. And I'm sure many academic institutions would love, to give their students this opportunity. To close, every speech has an ending. Let me present this practice we call Kitsugi. I share this with our first week class. Kintsugi, this may not necessarily apply here in the Philippine context because we tend to have a culture of throwaway. You know, we have this throwaway mentality. But in some villages in Japan, this is still being practiced. That when a jar or a bowl is broken into pieces, here in the Philippines we simply let go, right? Throw them away. It's already rendered useless. But in some villages in Japan, the owner would painstakingly gather the broken pieces and then connect them, all the broken pieces. They would connect them with glue, real gold and silver. And what happens afterwards is that this image becomes more pricey and more beautiful because of the scars, the marks from when it was broken. Through the lens of conflict transformation and peace building, conflict and trauma can also be catalyst opportunities for growth, for progress, for change. This image in Kintsugi teaches us that in life, we can turn adversity into something that is beautiful and resilient. Kintsugi shows us that in time, we can heal from our wounds, from our fragmentation, from our brokenness, embrace our imperfections, and become stronger. Kintsugi reminds us that no matter our difficulties, we can find a way to refrain and find meaning in life. So thank you, and I wish all of us the best as we begin this year's week 2 of MPI.